Well, One Nation leader Pauline Hanson has hit back at critics of her trip to Italy and a luxury fashion show, saying the visit hasn't cost taxpayers a cent. Let's go live to Mel Whiteman in Brisbane this morning. Morning to you, Mel. Now, Senator Hanson, she's accused her opponents of double standards and jealousy here.
Saying Labor and Liberal MPs have also been holidaying under the Italian sun. Good morning, David. One Nation leader Pauline Hanson has this week been snapped at a lavish Dolce Gabbana fashion show in Sicily, as well as poolside with mining billionaire Gina Rinehart. She's previously been critical of the Prime Minister for his overseas travel, and her trip comes as Aussies back home struggle with the cost of living. But from the back of a cab in London, Pauline Hanson has hit back, posting a video saying there's a lot of jealousy out there and this trip hasn't cost taxpayers anything.
Well, there's been 6 members of Parliament that were over in Italy this week. So anyway, but let's have a go at Pauline Hanson. Why am I here? Well, I'll tell you something. Not $1 cost to the taxpayer.
She's also copped criticism over a podcast recorded while on the trip with controversial far-right activist Tommy Robinson, where she claimed that many migrants are rorting the NDIS. Pauline Hanson says she'll be back in Australia soon and she will be putting out what she has called hardcore policies.
All right, thank you, Mel, there in Brisbane. Cheers.
Premier adding his voice to criticism of the One Nation leader today. Chris Minns says if Pauline Hanson gets power, it would be bad for the economy and social cohesion.
The Liberal Party and the National Party can only form government with One Nation, a coalition, a Frankenstein's monster of Liberal, National and One Nation. That would be terrible if we had a whites-only immigration policy for our country.
New South Wales heads to the polls in March and Labor insiders are worried about One Nation taking Labor seats in the Hunter.
The Premier is poised to set up a new crime-fighting agency to give police extra powers to take on Melbourne's underworld. But the clock's ticking, with just 131 days until the state election.
The Premier is said to be desperate to avoid a pre-election stumble. With revelations today, the government is planning to set up a new crime agency to tackle organised crime.
We need new responses to the crime that is being committed.
But just 2 days ago,
the Police Chief Commissioner stood next to the Premier this week and asked for new powers.
They focus on unexplained wealth, more powers to track money, to intercept communications, etc., etc.
He said that they would like to have to be able to properly investigate this.
Let me step you through this. I'm in constant dialogue with the Chief Commissioner.
Only a royal commission will get to the bottom of the corruption that's occurred.
I think what's really required in Victoria, and a number of people are calling for it now, is a royal commission to lance the boil.
I've got no announcements to make today.
One announcement the Premier was happy to talk about is a proposed change to the law for social media giants, forcing them to unmask anonymous accounts who spread hate online.
So much of it is anonymous. We are going to make it easier for families to take these online platforms to court when they have found that they have caused psychological hurt and harm to young children.
There are criminals on the big build, they are not unmasked. So for the government to be prioritising rude online comments says everything about the priorities of this government.
Jacqueline Stanley, 7 News.
Pauline Hanson has rallied against transgender rights and called for cuts to migration at a right-wing conference in the UK. She also slammed Australia for failing to ban the burqa.
You got it right in Britain, and I'm glad you did. It's a pity we don't learn. We're too stupid over there with these feminist organisations or these other ones or the activists and pushing their own agenda. 24 countries around the world have banned the burqa. Some of these are Islamic countries. And we are so stupid that we don't see the impact it's having on our country.
Her speech drew only a modest crowd, with the function room less than a third full.
The United States has launched fresh strikes against Iran after 2 American soldiers were killed in an Iranian drone and missile attack on an airbase in Jordan. As a return to full-scale war edges closer, the US has issued a worldwide safety warning to its citizens.
2 American soldiers killed and 1 still missing. Iranian missiles and drones hit an airbase in Jordan, housing US troops. 4 other Americans were injured, taken to a military hospital, but since discharged. Overnight, US forces carried out what the president called swift punishment. The US Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, on X, "Godspeed, heroes. Their sacrifice only stiffens our resolve." This was the 8th night running that Iran has been struck. US Central Command says the nightly campaign has destroyed Iranian surveillance sites, military infrastructure, underground weapons, and maritime capabilities. Iranian state TV claims America hit civilian targets, bridges and tunnels, even a desalination plant. Moments before the US casualties in Jordan were announced, the Iranian leader released a statement declaring Iran was abandoning the interim peace deal signed last month and that Donald Trump's signature was worthless. Iran, claiming dozens of civilian deaths, has continued with its own so-called retribution, firing on neighbours: Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Kuwait, taking sustained Iranian fire, reporting its own desalination plant hit and an oil refinery. The United States issued a renewed caution for Americans in the Middle East before expanding that safety warning worldwide as global efforts to build bridges crumble. James Carmody, 7 News.
The US has launched a fresh round of airstrikes on Iran, making it the 7th night of attacks in a row. Live to Hannah Ford in Los Angeles. Hannah, the US has been accused of targeting critical civilian infrastructure like Iran's power grid.
That's right. Well, President Donald Trump has long been threatening to hit Iranian power plants and bridges as a way of forcing the country back to the table for peace deal talks. But he's reportedly followed through on those threats. Iranian media today reporting that bridges and even a train station have been hit. It comes after a 7th night of US strikes on the country, the war that seems to only be escalating, showing no signs of easing. But Donald Trump's focus seems to be elsewhere this morning. He left the White House and has now arrived in Manhattan ahead of the World Cup final that he plans to attend. He'll play golf in New Jersey before going to that match. But there is some concerns about the smoke that's still blanketing that stadium in New Jersey where the World Cup final will be held. But it's hoped that rain may dissipate that smoke in time for that big match.
Yeah, fingers crossed it does. All right, thanks for that, Hannah.